In today's market, there's no shortage of affordable robot vacuums that promise efficient cleaning. So then why would someone consider dropping almost $1,100 on this beast? I mean, what more can you really ask for out of a robotic vacuum? But the new Deebot T20 Omni from EcoVacs packs an enormous number of features in for that price point. It's almost like the EcoVacs engineering team wrote down a list of all possible features that you'd ever want on a vacuum robot, handed it to the T20 project manager, and they just replied with, yes. I mean, let's just scroll all the list of features here. There are a ton. Now, if you're interested in seeing if this robot is worth the price tag, then stay tuned. Hi everyone, and welcome back to This Smart House. My name is Ryan, and if this is your first time here, then welcome. On this channel, we do in-depth product reviews and smart home projects. Now, as I mentioned before, today we're going to be taking a look at the Deebot T20 Omni. This beast of a robot vacuum cleaner seems to have almost everything you'd ever want in a cleaning companion. Strong suction, powerful mopping, self-emptying dustbin, and clean and dirty water tanks. But before we dive into what this bot has to offer, a big thank you goes out to EcoVac for shipping me this robot to test for the past week or so and for sponsoring today's video. Now, like all of my other review videos, you're going to be getting my opinion and my opinion only on this robot, plus what I found in my research. With that being said, let's jump into what the T20 Omni has to offer. So as we take a look at the long list of features on the T20, let's start with the vacuum robot itself. Now, one neat feature about the robot is the actual entire top plate is just held on with magnets. So it's super convenient to get access to it. Starting at the front, we've got the multi-use button, which will allow you to start and stop the robot. You can also use it to return the robot to its home. Plus it shows you a quick battery status with these 3 lights on the front. Then over here we have the dedicated power switch and the button that's used to set up the Wi-Fi. It also has an LED on it that shows you the status of the Wi-Fi, whether it's connected or not. Now, noticeably, right here in the middle is the sensor pod, which comes equipped with LiDAR and other sensors. We'll cover that a little bit more in depth in the app section. Then we'll notice the onboard dustbin, which has this nice little release handle here that allows you to take it out and see what you have in here. Of course, this being a self-emptying robot, this dustbin can be smaller because it only has to do one trip. Once it returns to the dock, it'll self-empty. So if we flip the robot over to the bottom, we'll see dual edge brushes, which is really helpful for cleaning under cabinets and around edges like your baseboards or the edge of your couch. Then we'll see the self-adjusting rubber brush here. Now, this rubber brush is unique looking because it has these large solid fins across there instead of the molded on versions you see on other robots. So hopefully that means that these are a little bit stronger and will last a lot longer. Now, of course, you've got the standard configuration for most robotic vacuums of 2 drive wheels and a center 360-degree spinning wheel. According to EcoVacs, this robot is capable of climbing over a door jamb or other obstacle of up to 20 millimeters or 0.75 inches. This is a nice feature, but pay attention to make sure your robot doesn't actually run away on you. Now, speaking of the vacuuming features on the robot, this is equipped with the 6,000 Pascal vacuum motor. Now, this is one of the more powerful vacuum motors on the market and is equivalent to that of what we saw on the iRobot J7 Plus from a few weeks ago. Now, the most striking feature on the bottom of the robot is the dual spinning mop pads. We'll get into more detail here in the next section. Now, if you look at the rest of the mopping robot, the first thing we want to talk about is the battery on board. It has a 5,200 milliamp hour battery that they claim will get about 260 minutes of runtime in quiet mode or about 170 minutes in standard mode. According to the manufacturer, this will typically cover about 4,800 square feet of living space. Now, of course, like other robots in this price point, it has continuous cleaning, meaning that if it does get low on battery when it's trying to clean your house, it will return to the dock, recharge before resuming cleaning from the spot that it left off. Now, for a quick overview of the sensors on the robot, as we already discussed, it comes with LiDAR for enhanced mapping, but it also has a camera on the front, which allows it to do obstacle avoidance and also some limited infrared room scanning. Of course, there's a standard suite of bump sensors on the front and also some edge sensors here on the sides. Now, if we spin it around back, we'll see the charging contacts and what I assume is another sensor here on the back. Now, you may be looking at this robot and thinking, this is a mopping robot, where's the water tank? Well, that leads us into the next section. Now, when it comes to mopping, as we mentioned before, on the bottom, it's equipped with 2 spinning brushes. They call this the Osmo Turbo 2.0, but you'll notice there's no tank on board. That's because the clean and dirty tank are both in the base. The unit will return to the base periodically, and the base will actually apply water to the pads. We'll get a little bit more detail on that here in a second. These pads are removable in case you do need to clean them, but the base will take care of this the majority of the time because it actually self-cleans using the hot water system. More on that here in a minute. This means not only does it wash the pads, it also uses hot water to break down any tough dirt. The robot is also equipped with up to a 9mm auto lift. What that means is if the robot detects an edge of a carpet while mopping, it will actually lift the pads up off the floor, creating a 9mm gap to ensure that your carpet or rug doesn't end up getting wet from the pads dragging over the top of them. Another unique feature of the T20 Osmo system is the fact that it actually does hot water mopping, meaning that the base will actually warm the water before it applies it to the pads and sends the robot on its way. This will actually heat the water up to about 132 degrees Fahrenheit or 55 degrees Celsius. This additional heat should increase the cleaning efficiency of the robot and allow it to tackle some tougher messes. Now, I believe this is a unique feature of this robot and it's not available on any other one on the market today. Now that we've covered the robot in detail, let's take a look at the base station. Now this thing is massive. This thing comes in about 23 inches tall by 18 inches wide by about 17 inches deep. Now that massive size contains both of your clean and your dirty water tanks, along with a 3-liter dust bag contained in this nifty little drawer here. Now, as I mentioned before, the robot is equipped to self-empty the onboard dustbin into that 3-liter bag, which should give you over 2 months of cleaning time before you have to change that bag out. Now, when it comes to the mopping features, as I mentioned, it will self-clean and hot air dry the mopping pads when it's finished cleaning. So this is nice, so you know you'll always have a fresh and clean mop pad before it heads out to clean your floors. Another neat feature is it even has a base cleaning mode, where it kicks the robot out and it puts some fresh water down in the pan below. You can use the included scrub brush to clean it up, and then it will suck all the gunk and water back into the dirty water tank for easy cleanup. Then of course, it'll dry it using an onboard dryer. Very convenient. Now, before we jump into the app features, just a quick reminder, if you've gotten any good information from this video, please consider dropping a like. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps YouTube know that you got value from this video. Plus, make sure you're subscribed for more smart home reviews and projects. So let's go ahead and jump into the app and look more closely at what options the T20 gives you. Now let's start this section off by looking at the technical features of the robot and also the items that you can personalize to your own taste by using the EcoVacs app. So to start off, let's talk about the navigation features. Now this thing is packed with sensors to really allow it to have an enhanced mapping options. So the robot uses a combination of LiDAR and directed time of flight sensors for quick and high precision mapping. Now, one of the cool features that this enables is the quick mapping mode. This allows a dedicated mapping mode that will map an average size floor in about 6 minutes. Uses a low power vacuum setting and a specific path to find all of the walls using the LiDAR. This creates sort of a rough map. So when it mapped my floor, it took around 10 minutes, but it got a good rough idea where everything is. Another great feature is the True Detect 3D obstacle avoidance. This uses the camera along with other sensors to create a real-time 3D map. This allows it to detect and avoid objects that are on the ground. It also allows it to capture common obstacles such as shoes, socks, power cords, and small toys. When discussing mapping, of course, we want to talk about customization. So this allows you to define custom rooms. You can go in and cut up the original map into whatever rooms you want. It even allows you to give them a name. This is important because later on, if you use the onboard voice assistant, you can tell the bot which room to clean and how. Along with that, you can create virtual boundaries, which include no-go zones and areas to avoid mopping. Now, when you're in the app, you do have the ability to set up one of 4 cleaning modes for each operation. The first is just simply a vacuum-only mode. This will only run the vacuum and not put any water into the mopping pads. Also, the robot will not stop and return to the dock unless it needs to empty the bin or to recharge. Next up, we've got the mopping operation. This is only going to mop the hard surfaces, and it actually doesn't run the vacuum. So this is great for running in the middle of the night to get a quick cleanup before the morning. Then we've got the standard mode, which is vacuum plus mop. This is, of course, where the unit will vacuum and mop at the exact same time. Then finally, we have a more deep cleaning mode called vacuum first before mopping. As it says, it's going to complete a full circuit of your home, vacuuming only. Then it will return to the base station, get the mop ready, and start mopping for a deeper clean. Another cool little add-on feature you can turn on is called Edge Cleaning Mode. This is a special mode that focuses on cleaning just the edges of the map around things like baseboards, under cabinets and couches. And when you activate this, it turns on about once every 7 days. So it's just an extra operation it adds in. Now, if you want to talk about how you can customize the cleaning, you have variable water and vacuuming levels. So for the vacuuming levels, there are actually 4 levels from silent all the way up to max plus. Now, this ranges from about 60 decibels on the quieter side up to 67 decibels for max plus. Now, for mopping settings, you can customize things like pad wetness, so how wet it creates the pad every time it returns. This can be set to low, normal, or high. You also have cleaning interval or intensity. This is that setting we talked about before where the bot will return to the dock for water every 6, 10, or 15 minutes. You can also select how long the unit will hot air dry the pads, between 2, 3, and 4 hours. So if you're finding that the pads are still wet after it finishes drying, you can increase this time. Another neat feature is what they call housekeeper mode. This allows the robot to automatically adjust cleaning parameters based on the room that it cleans. And it can automatically adjust the parameters like the vacuum strength or mopping duration. As I mentioned earlier, you can have multiple floor maps with this unit. It can store up to 3 maps in the cloud and 1 on board the robot. This allows you to move the robot between different floors and have a customized level of clean. The robot does have its own onboard AI voice assistant called Eco. This allows you to send a voice command to the robot without using anything else like a Google Assistant or an Amazon Alexa. You can talk directly to the robot. Okay, Eco.
I'm here.
Vacuum the living room.
Okay, get it done now.
Now, this AI assistant actually has more features than the third-party assistants like Google Assistant or Alexa. You can actually give it a direct command to say, go clean a specific room or go mop or whatever. So I actually found a breakdown of all the various commands that you can do on the onboard AI versus the third-party voice assistants. I've got a link to that down in the description. And if you want, you can actually disable this in the application. And as I mentioned, it is compatible with most major smart home voice assistants like Google, Alexa, or Siri. Now, one of the first things I always look into for a new device is, can I integrate it into Home Assistant? And the good news here is there are 2 different integrations available for the EcoVacs or Deebots. One is the older native integration that was built into Home Assistant way back in version 0.77. This one's getting a little bit old and I've actually had some troubles with it, but I did find a nice third-party hacks integration called the Deebot for Home Assistant. I've got links to both of these down in the description, and I'm testing out this third-party one right now, and I'll let you know what I find out. Of course, both of these rely on the cloud. They use the Deebot API, so there's no local control quite yet. So to sum everything up here, let's take a look at some of the pros and cons of this particular robot. Let's start with the cons. So of course, the first big one would be the price point. On the surface, this unit shares a lot of the same features as its little cousin, the Yeti Cube I talked about a couple weeks ago. And that one comes in around $400 less than the T20 Omni. The T20 does have a ton more features and a much better navigation system on board. But it's entirely up to you whether or not this robot will justify that increased price point. Now the next con we'll talk about is some of the oddities in the mopping system. Because of the unique way the mopping system works and the lack of an onboard tank, the robot has to make frequent trips back to the dock in order to re-wet the pads. This really will lengthen the time of your cleaning and might lead to some inconsistent cleaning because that hot water only will last so long. Plus, a few reviewers pointed out that the robot will consume a lot more water, requiring more refills of that 4-liter tank. Now, another concern is its dependency upon the cloud. I know a lot of my viewers don't necessarily like that because of the risks it involves with privacy and also with just usability in the long term. A lot of the advanced features on this particular robot, and really all of them on the market, require using the cloud to generate things like maps and do some of the 3D object scanning. So these are just risks that you have to take into account when you buy a robot that depends on the cloud. So let's shift over to the positive features. So of course, the main standout feature for me is the excellent navigation. With the combination of the infrared camera and the LiDAR means you get a superior level of mapping throughout your house. So you can really break down your home into sections and command the robot to clean them, which is super nice and makes it much more convenient. And another pro is the cleaning results. Between the strong suction and the mops, the T20 keeps your floor extra clean no matter what you throw at it. I even have tested it against some of the dried on messes that my kids like to leave, like yogurt, and they can be tackled very easily with the spin brushes and the hot water, which none of my other mopping robots could tackle. Another great feature is the obstacle avoidance. Similar to the J7 Plus, with its front-mounted camera, it gives it the ability to avoid some of the more conventional pitfalls for robot cleaners, like your charging cables, socks, and shoes. In a house full of kids, this is an absolute requirement in my opinion. And finally, is the low maintenance. One of the biggest things I didn't really realize about how nice it would be to have a robot that kind of takes care of itself is how often I would actually run it. From self-emptying of the dustbin to the clean and dry tanks, I really only have to fill and empty the tanks a few times a week, and the robot will run daily. And of course, overall, this robot is packed with features and settings. You can really customize how you want your house to be cleaned. As I use this robot, I have a feeling I'm going to find which modes I prefer, and I have the options on board to change them so it cleans exactly the way I want it to. So check the comments in a few months for a post updating on how the robot has performed over that time period. So now if this review interested you in the T20 Omni, I have links down in the description to pick one up. As always, if you use these links, it really goes to help support the channel and lets EcoVacs know that you came from this channel. And also make sure you check the pinned comment on this video for any sales. Now I know if you're watching this the week the video comes out, check out the limited time Amazon Prime fall sales, just in time for Prime's big October sales event. Now, if you are shopping around for vacuum robots, I've got a dedicated playlist right here. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next video.